data trends in the supply chain marketplace. Here to talk about that today is Peter Weis, CIO and Senior Vice President of Supply Chain Services for ITS Logistics. Welcome, Peter.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you for joining us.
You bet.
I know that 3PLs had a huge advantage in adopting technology very early on and enthusiastically, but it feels a little bit like maybe they've lost their first mover advantage. Would you agree with that? Where are they with
Yeah, I would say the grounds have shifted. They were the early movers because they managed the freight. They were the first ones to build supply chain solutions for customers. And they, for the most part, had no competition. But the world changed as the internet and the cloud came along. And so two different types of entrants have challenged the sort of traditional 3PLs. One is the pure software plays. There are a number of companies that built great customer-facing software and have taken advantage of the fact that the 3PLs were too much operator and not enough innovator. So that's one entrant that came in to threaten. And the other is what I'd call the tech-forward 3PL that focused on market-facing, customer-facing solutions, perhaps at the expense of getting the back-end operations right. So each of them has had their own challenges, but each of them has, I think, made real inroads into the traditional 3PL supply chain marketplace.
Thank you. So what are you seeing in general in the 3PL marketplace at the moment? Where is it going?
Yeah, so if you imagine this sort of collision among traditional 3PLs, sort of tech-forward 3PLs that focused on customer experience, and the pure software plays, there is a collision course, and these companies that made some early progress, that the software plays and the tech-forward 3PLs, if it's not a backlash, it's at least a healthy dose of skepticism that they haven't been able to get the back-end data right. So as a result, they're going through some real growing pains. Some of them are laying off, revenue is way down, they've lost customers. So this creates, I think, a new opportunity again for the traditional 3PLs if they can innovate as well as operate, if that makes sense. So those two new entrants didn't win over the market. They've done some damage. And now it's, you've got all three of these entrants going at it. And it's quite a thing to see. And I think despite all the sexiness of the UI and the analytics that these new entrants have built, the core issue remains, how strong is your core enterprise IT platform? Can you trust the data? Can you trust the software? Not just for your customers, but for your own operations. And this is the advantage I think traditional 3PLs will have if they focus sufficiently on it.
Right, because if anybody knows about the back end, it's the traditional 3PLs.
Well, they better if they want to survive, you bet, that's right.
Yeah, so really the question has become, does it work? And in many cases with these new disruptive, more tech-forward companies or pure play tech companies really haven't proved their mettle. Is that what you're saying?
That is what I'm saying. If you think about what happens if a pure software company goes sideways with a customer? Well, maybe they lose some business, but maybe they had a 3-year deal and they have time to recover. The customer suffers, but the provider still may hold on to the business or not. So if you ever heard that parable about a breakfast between the chicken and the pig? So the chicken is involved in making breakfasts by laying an egg. Well, the pig's committed. And so if you think about the traditional 3PL, well, they are using that very same data to run their company, to run their business. So if there's a major problem, if there are major data quality issues, it's not just about losing a customer, it's about losing their business. They either fix that or they shrink their way into oblivion because that data is the basis for their very survival long term and short term.
Well, let's talk about how data gets used in the 3PL customer relationship. What is the best strategy when it comes to data sharing between shippers and 3PLs?
Well, if you start with the notion that you've got all of this data right as a 3PL, that is the start. You have to have, in my view, an inside-out approach where you get your core TMS, transportation management systems, right, reliable. API enabled, alerts built in, event management built in, and all the tools you need to run your business. At that point, and only at that point, are you really going to thrive with your customers. So ITS's approach, and I think the long view approach of any great 3PL, is going to be to get that right. There are many 3PLs that rushed ahead, that built customer-facing integrations and solutions, have run into these kinds of problems that that I just mentioned. So you get that right, inside out, then you go on offense, and you start building for your customers. And just listen. The customers will tell you what they want, but you just got to spend some time listening. And when they tell you, you have to have the ability to go on offense and go quickly. You cannot have velocity to marketplace without having a single cloud-based TMS to run your core business. That is the foundation on which everything else just has to be built. And that's the approach that we're taking.
And it sounds like that data quality issue, which is so important, is really one of the building blocks of trust between a 3PL and a shipper. That the data that's coming through is accurate and trustworthy. Is that right?
Yeah, that's so. I would define trustworthy or enterprise class or world class as accurate, complete, and timely, based on whatever latency requirements there are in the marketplace. So you have to do all three of those at world-class levels.
Right.
And you have to measure them, and we measure them at ITS, and any great 3PL will measure them. Because you know what? If there are issues, guess who needs to find them first? We as a 3PL need to find them first. If a customer finds them, we're in big trouble.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing those insights about the 3PL market.
Yeah.
Now, Peter, could you tell us a little bit about ITS Logistics, just briefly?
Sure. So we're a $1 billion company today that acts like a startup in a velocity sense. And the reason is we're a younger company that doesn't have the same legacy technology issues that decades-old companies may have. We don't have a lot of what I'd call application sprawl, multiple TMSs that you're all trying to jam and convert into one. We don't have legacy data centers. We have very little technology debt. And as a result of being all on one cloud-based TMS, our sort of cost of keeping the lights on, we think, is lower than our competitors. That means for our technology spend, we get to spend a much higher percentage of it on growth and innovation. So just make sure you build the right things, listen to your customers, spend your money wisely, take care of your TMS, and then you're off to the races. And we have, again, took the long game approach, got our cloud-based TMS all in place. We've just launched our first product, which we're calling Container AI, which is a container visibility tool that tracks from the moment an empty is picked up, let's say in Shanghai, to the time it's delivered in Chicago, Illinois, and the empty is returned, with a particular focus on demurrage and detention, which were two really stressful pain points during COVID and still persist as issues today.
Yeah, as all the FMC complaints testify.
Oh my goodness, the millions of dollars that have been lost and spent in that space. So we're one of the largest, 10 or 11th largest drayage companies in the country. So this was a natural jumping off point for our go on offense strategy.
Thank you so much for those very interesting answers. We've been talking about data trends in the supply chain marketplace with Peter Weis from ITS Logistics. Thank you for watching.